Greetings, Michael Didier here. I'm glad you're here. We are talking about Genesis 1 through 3, foundational chapters to understanding Torah. Today we're going to go through chapter 3. Oh my. You know what? We've learned lies, worthless and unprofitable things. Things that have led us to think in a way that Yahovah never intended. You know what? Most people read these first 3 chapters of Genesis, and I think it goes over their heads. It doesn't agree with their ideas, the things that we have learned and accepted as true. And as a result, we can't hear it. We miss it. We're blind to it. We need spiritual eyes, spiritual ears, a spiritual heart and mind to be able to understand the word of Yahovah. You know, there's people that are reading it every day. They think they understand it, but they're blind. They're blind. They don't get it. And unless they change some of their preconceived ideas, foundational ideas, they'll remain blind. Yahovah, you are the creator. You are the maker of all things. We have learned lies. We need eyes that see. Please help us. Don't let us react to your word. Let us manifest it in our life. We love you so much. You know, I say react to your word. There's things that I say that gets people mad. It violates their ideas, the doctrines and traditions of men that they've all learned. But what I will ask you today is to listen. See how the words that we're reading, the words that I'm speaking to you, fit together in all of Torah. You know, if it doesn't agree with all of Torah, it's not the truth. It's easy to react. It's easy to get mad and leave. And you know what? That's what most people do. They come to my website, they find something that violates their ideas, you know, the Catholic Church especially. Oh my gosh. The things that we've been taught in Christianity. We've been taught how to turn people off. That doesn't agree with the precepts of the doctrines and traditions of men. Oh, he doesn't believe in the Trinity. Turn him off. Ooh, he doesn't believe that Jesus is the Savior. Turn him off. Ooh, he doesn't believe that the New Testament is God's Word. Turn him off. Folks, you're jumping from the frying pan into the fire. It's going to get you killed. I've learned things that will change your life. But you got to listen with an open mind. You got to see how it all agrees with Torah. We're on the 3rd chapter today of Genesis. And I've already said enough to turn most people off because they don't have eyes that see. It doesn't agree with their Christian theology, their Jewish theology. Well, I want to expand your mind. Remember, it's about renewing our mind to Yahovah's good and acceptable and perfect will. Isn't that what we're talking about? But you know what? When you renew your mind, you renew your actions. You can't keep doing the same thing with new thoughts. Well, now you haven't got spirit and truth. No, now you've got a blend of good and evil. We've got to live the truth. But first, we got to discover the truth. Most of us can't see it. I hope you can. Let's begin with a review. I always begin with a review. Context, context, context. Let's see everything in the context. Let's see and understand everything in the context in which it's written. We're going to start, not here. We're going to start in Genesis. Here, let me do this. 2. We started Genesis 2 talking about the 7th day. Has nothing to do with the lunar Sabbath. It has everything to do with the rhythm. You know what? Think of Yahovah. He's a man of systems. His word, as we've said many times, makes sense. And he's got a rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He does it with his Sabbath, his weekly Sabbath, his days. He does it with the Jubilee year, the Sabbath year. Every 7 years we have a year of rest. And he also does it with the Jubilee, doesn't he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He does it 7 times. And then that 7th year, we have a whole year of rest. And then we have another year of rest. But it's all done in that rhythm of 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. Is it leading to 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1? You know, this millennial kingdom is going to be a Sabbath year. Sabbath millennium, if you will. Things are going to be different. Satan is not going to be involved in this kingdom like he is in the first 6 centuries, 6 millennia. Millennia? The 7th is going to be different. Things to look forward to. Well, the next thing we talked about was this. It says, and Yahovah formed the man. No, Yahovah Elohim formed the man of the dust of the ground. Ha-Adam from the Ha-Adamah. Yahovah Elohim. Doesn't say Yahovah your Elohim. Doesn't say Yahovah our Elohim. There was only one Elohim at this point in time. But we're going to see today another Elohim is going to be created. Oh my goodness. Well, he continues. He breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Ooh, Kayim. Remember we were talking about Kayim last week. The qualitative life. the big life, the eternal life, the glorious, the honorous life. That is how man, the man, was created. Not just Kayim. Well, look at the next verse down here. It says, what is Enosh? That's mortal man, that you are mindful of him. We're talking about males, not females. What is Enosh? That you are mindful of him. And a son, not a daughter, of Adam, that you visit him. Now this is looking back. This is Psalms, but he's looking back to creation. Listen what he says. For you have made him a little lower than Elohim, and you have crowned him with glory and honor. Oh, I almost want to weep because of how far we have fallen from the truth. Glory and honor is what we're supposed to have. This man, Adam, was created to live forever. He was never to die. He was supposed to be a permanent fixture. But we're going to see today why he's no longer a permanent fixture. But the good news of Torah, the good news of the kingdom, the good news that I have to share with all of you is that you, men, can once again achieve and come back to glory and honor and immortality, especially in these last days. And if you have glory and honor and immortality, your woman or women will also have glory and honor and immortality. Because they're you. Well, I remember I was so impressed when I saw this glory. This is why he created us, with the life, the Kayim. I remembered seeing a verse in Romans. It finished like this. I'll give you the whole verse. I'll read the whole thing. But according to your hardness and your impenitent heart, you are treasuring up for yourself in the day of wrath, wrath in the day of wrath, and revelation of the righteous judgment of Elohim, who will render to each man, according to his deeds. You know what? Yehovah is not judging women. Does that bother you, ladies? Maybe you need to realign your minds differently. We'll see this throughout the Torah. He judges men according to their deeds, according to the fruit of their actions. A woman is going to get what her man gets. No man, you might as well be an animal, because that's what you're going to get. A woman has got to have a man in her life. Oh, I know, these are fighting words. But listen to how he says, but eternal life to those who with patient continuance in doing good seek for glory and honor and immortality. Today, if we have time, I'm going to go and introduce Yasher. And we're going to see that the Yasher man is the one who's going to be preserved because of the righteousness which he has done. Patient continuance in doing good. Who decides what is good and what is evil? Only one person. Yahovah. Spirit Elohim. So we're talking about life. He breathed Kayim into the man, and man was to live forever. Moving on. He made the woman. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. He says, she shall be called Isha because she was taken out of Ish. What is he saying? I have it right here. As bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She is he. And I demonstrated that for you last week. You'll have to go through the lesson again last week. We said, where is the woman? Remember? We came out of Egypt. 600,000 Gabor men. And children. And the mixed multitude didn't say anything about the ladies. We talked about the fourth commandment. 6 days you shall work, but the seventh day you shall rest. You and your son and your daughter and your male servant and your maidservant and the ger who dwells with you, your ox and your donkey. But he didn't say anything about the woman, did he? The woman disappears into her man. She could be a daughter. She could be a maidservant. But if she's bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, she's not enumerated. We're not talking about women ever keeping Jehovah's word, and Yehovah did not talk to the woman. Ooh, you know what? That should have been on here. Let me just find that. Here it is right here. I'm so glad I said what I said just now, because this is something we need to talk about. And Yehovah Elohim, remember we say Elohim, why? Because he's the lawmaker and judge. Elohim, a lawmaker, creates statutes and ordinances. A judge does judgments. Yehovah does both. But it's Yehovah Elohim who commanded Ha-Adam, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge and good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat it, you shall surely die. Who's he talking to? Adam. The woman hasn't even been created yet. Then he put the man into the garden. Oh, here it is up here. Verse before it. Then Yehovah Elohim took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to tend and keep it. Now he's going to tell him of every tree. Now he's going to command him. But the lady's not here yet. Well, now he created the woman, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Flesh of his flesh. You know, I always like to think of the woman as a hand, eye, mouth, tongue. Does my hand, my mouth, my tongue, my eye act separately from me? The answer is no. I tell it what to do. My hand is my servant's. Just like man was intended to be Jehovah's servant. So you always have that understanding. Man to Elohim, woman to her man. But now we're going to talk about the fall today. And let's begin in Genesis chapter 3. It says, now the serpent was more cunning than any, this is what my New King James says, any beast of the field which Jehovah Elohim had made. Beast of the field. Okay, we saw several times now, if you're paying attention, that this word beast is incorrect. The word that we're talking about is kayi. Kayi, living. Then any living thing, understand the thing of the field. It would have to be in gray, italicized. Any living thing of the field. Beast. What would you consider a beast? I mean, when we talk about living things of the field, remember we saw that there were two things. What were they? The four-footed animals and all the rest of the animals. The creeping things. Okay, is a serpent a four-footed animal? No, he's a creeping thing. Creeps along the ground. No feet. Now the serpent was more cunning. There was another word for cunning that I remember reading. Serpent was more subtle. Subtle. Cunning. I guess cunning kind of picks up on that same idea. But he's subtle. He's cunning. He's sneaky. He is not interested in doing the things that Jehovah created him to do. Of course, we're talking about Satan. And he said to the Isha, the woman, the serpent is talking to the Isha. Now, if you understand the role of a man and role of his woman, you should understand that this woman had no business talking to another being that's going to lead her away from the instructions of her man. He said, has Elohim indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? What's he doing? Does she know what Elohim said? No. No. She only knows what her man told her Elohim said. He's putting doubt in her mind, corrupting her at the very foundation of her understandings. Because it's not about what Elohim said for her. It's about what? What her man said. Her head. She's bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Well, the woman is entering into dialogue with him right now. I think that is a mistake. Because the woman was bone and flesh of the man, the Ish, the serpent was not talking to the head of the man, but only to his body, his flesh. A woman is vulnerable when she speaks to anyone who leads her away from what her man has told her, or makes decisions without her man's okay. Do you hear what I'm saying? This fits exactly with Numbers 30. If a woman makes a vow and her man hears about the vow, he can annul the vow. The man, her man, has final say. That's going to be very important here in the future here, in the fall of man. Satan knows Jehovah's word way better than we do. He was correct in what he said. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, were Jehovah's instructions. But he left a portion out. What did he leave out? But of the tree of knowledge and good and evil you shall not eat. Well, talking to an animal is not unreasonable. You know what? I used to talk to my dogs. Never had a cat. Never had a horse. But people talk to animals all the time, don't they? But when animals start talking back, some red flags should raise in our minds. Verse 2 says, and this is where she enters into dialogue with the serpent. And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, you shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Now, she's telling him what Elohim said. But she never heard Elohim say it. She only heard what her man said. Was it her man who said, you shall not touch it? Don't even touch it, honey. Don't eat it. Don't even touch it. Don't even go near it. Would that have been unreasonable for that man to tell his woman? I don't think so. She's his woman. Remember, we're talking about Yahovah commanding Ha'adam. He said, you shall not eat. From the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. She added the words, you shall not touch it. 4. Then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die. What's he saying? He's talking to the woman. You will not surely die. Is he calling Yahovah a liar? Or is he calling her man a liar? He's contradicting what she's been told. But is that anything new? I hear every day people saying things like, Yahovah does not mean that. Well, that's how you interpret his word. Oh, those words, those ideas, that mindset is the mindset that the woman and the man received. Remember, talking about knowing good and evil. The next verse that we're going to talk about. There's all kinds of people who will say, well, that's not what he's talking about here. But then they never really dig into it to find out what he's talking about. Why? I think it's because there is no fear of Elohim in them. And I wonder if this was the problem that we had in the garden. There was no fear of Elohim in us. The woman was to obey her man. The man was to obey Elohim. Well, the next verse is a very interesting verse. It goes along with another verse that we're going to see at the bottom of this page, at the end of this chapter. Here's what it says in the New King James. It says, "For Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil." Ooh, I found something very interesting, but it wasn't here that I found it. I found it down below, and I'm going to talk about it when we get down below. Let me just read to you what I think it really should say more. "For Elohim knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will become as Elohim-kind, to know good and evil." What did we say in Psalms? Or Yahovah has created the Enosh to be a little lower than Elohim. But Enosh wants to be Elohim. We want to decide who we're going to serve. We want to decide what is good and what is evil. You know, that's the difference between me and most people. I read my Father's Word, and I make it make sense. And then I align my life to it. I don't try and align it to my life. See, that's what most people do. And as a result, they're blind. They don't have eyes that can see because they have lost the spiritual nature in understanding that we are going to serve spirits, Elohim. We should remember that the man and his woman chose to live according to their flesh instead of just the words of Yahovah given to Ha-Adam. The woman, the Isha, wanted to be an Elohim kind. Oh, that's really interesting. Wait till you see this down below. Instead of an assistant, which she was created to be. Remember, she was supposed to be an aid suitable. We talked about it last week. I like the analogy about as the general goes from place to place, his aide anticipates where he's going. He knows his schedule. He goes ahead of him. He prepares the place for him so that he can do the work that he needs to do without having to do all the extra details. He doesn't have to worry about who's going to cook his food. He doesn't have to worry about where he's going to sleep, that his pillow's going to be there. His aide is going to take care of that. That's how a woman is. An aide to her man. Well, in relation to this article, or this verse, I wrote an article called Yahovah is First. Man wanted to take the place of Elohim. Man, Ha-Adam, really it started with his Isha, Ha-Adam's Isha. She didn't want to be the aid suitable. She wanted to be the man. The man. He wanted to be the Elohim. The man. Remember, the man is the Elohim of the woman. She wants to be the Elohim. I don't want to be a helper. I don't want a man ruling over me. I don't want to be bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. I don't want to be bossed around. Instead, they decided they wanted to be first. And Yehovah is supposed to be first. Well, with that in mind, I wrote an article. You know what? I put links in here all the time to my articles. I'll be very happy to give you all my study notes so that you can have all these things that we're reading from week to week. I'll be happy to share them with you. Then you can go to these study notes. But here's how this particular study note begins. It says, "Oh my God, my lawmaker and my judge. I've learned so many worthless and unprofitable things. I have put myself and other lawmakers and judges in your place and have not served you as I should. Oh, Yehovah, please forgive me, humble me, help me to know you are first. You are Elohim. There is none besides you." It was while I was preparing a Sabbath lesson on Genesis 3, this one, several years ago, the fall of man, that I noticed something interesting. After Satan had told Hava, Eve, you shall surely die, he said these words. For Elohim knows in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. It is only Elohim who can discern between good and evil. I really like the word Elohim as opposed to God. All those preconceived notions that we have with that word God. Because it helps me remember that he is my only lawmaker and my only judge. And he is. I don't have any covenants with this world. Using the word Elohim reminds me to follow the spiritual nature in whose image I was created. Instead of deciding for myself what is good and evil, or having other Elohim. Lawmakers and judges decide what is good and evil according to my own senses and my lower fleshly nature. This is sin. We're going to get to the study note here shortly. Man was created to be Yehovah's servants. I want to show you one verse. This is from Job. I pulled this together. In fact, I think I'll just go to that verse. We're on Genesis 3:5 right now. We'll come back to it. This is Job, and I believe it is like 1:8. Let's go there. Listen to the testimony that Yehovah gives to Satan about Job. It says, "Then Yehovah said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? His Aved, his servant, not Satan's servant, not the servant of any other Elohim. Job serves Yehovah, that there is none like him on the earth, blameless and yasher man." Yasher. That's why I wanted to talk about this. Yasher. We're going to talk about Yasher. Where does Yasher come from? Yasher means upright, blameless and upright. One who fears Elohim and shuns evil. Is Job deciding for himself what is good and evil? Or is he depending on Elohim to know good and evil? Carrie says it's the latter. He's right. We don't know good and evil. Reminds me of this verse, Isaiah 5. I think it's verse 20. It says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes. Their own eyes. We can be like eesh-kind and prudent in their own sight. He goes on, because they have rejected the word of Yehovah of hosts and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Rejected the Torah, despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Gonna get you in trouble. That's what they're doing right now. For Elohim knows in the day you eat it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. You will become. It's like creating something new. Yehovah created man in his image. We're going to see, hey, you cut your beard. It looks great. Kerry cut his beard. Pull in here. Here's my friend Kerry. He's usually got a beard that's down to here. He looks great. He looks good. You look really good. I like it. Sorry, distracted. What were we talking about? For Elohim knows in the day that you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will become like Elohim, knowing good and evil. This is what we're talking about. Oh my gosh, we're calling evil good and good evil. We can't discern it. We want to be like Elohim. Elohim created the man to serve him. But now something new is being created. Not yet. She hasn't eaten it. He hasn't eaten it. But when they eat it, something new is going to be created. Hayah! Exist of Elohim kind. Ooh, wait till you see. So the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, a tree desirable to make one wise. She took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her man. Her man. Let's fix that. You know what? You got to read differently. She also gave to her man. Her Baal is what the husband is called many times. This just says her man, her eesh, with her. And he ate. You know, in Deuteronomy 6:5, it says, thou shalt love Yehovah, thy Elohim, with all thy lavav, heart. Really, we're talking about spirit, the innermost thing that only Yehovah can see. He says, the heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yehovah, search the heart. I test the mind to give every man according to the fruit of his doings. But listen what the order is. Heart, soul, strength. And thou shalt love Yahovah with all thy levav, with all thy nefesh, thoughts and emotions, and with all thy strength. These are the outward things, the things that the animals have. Well, I guess the animals have thoughts and emotions too. They just don't have that spirit. They don't have the hearts. So what's going on? Spirit, we're talking spirit, thoughts and emotions, and then the most basic, the strength, the thing that comes out in our actions. But look what it says here, good for food. Now we're talking about what's going into her mouth, pleasant to the eyes, thoughts and emotions. A tree desirable to make one wise. It's completely reversed. She's turned the world topsy-turvy. Instead of ordering her life with Yahovah at the top, now she's at the top. And soon the man's going to be at the top. Become like Elohim. John says the same thing. Listen, this is John chapter 2, verse 15 through 17. He says, do not love the world. The cosmos is the word that we're talking about here. The systems and structures of men that guard our lives. We're talking about Elohim. Do not love the world or the things that are in the world. If anyone loves the cosmos, the love of Yahovah is not in him. You know what? People call him the Father all the time. I'm trying to get away from that. I try to get away from that all the time. You've heard me correct myself. Because he's not your Father until you become the Ezra man. The love of the Creator is not in him. For all that is in the cosmos, look at what they say, the lust of the flesh, that it was good for food, the lust of the eyes, pleasant to the eyes, and the pride of life, a tree desirable to make one wise, is not of the Creator, but is of the cosmos. And the cosmos is passing away. Dust you are, and dust you shall return. And the lust of it. But he who does the will of Elohim abides forever. That's what we're talking about, folks. Leaving the kingdom of our birth. This is the message of Torah. Come out from among them and be ye separate. Serve only Elohim. We were created to be the servant of Elohim. But what did we do? We decided that we wanted to be our Elohim, or we wanted to have other Elohim for us. Give us a king, that we can be like the other nations. We've got to leave that kingdom, make Yahovah our only Elohim. Then, and only then, does keeping the Sabbath, eating clean, or anything else that Yahovah commands make any difference at all. You're not his people because you eat clean. You're not his people because you try to keep the feasts. You're not his people because you don't do Christmas. You're his people when you leave the kingdom of your birth. I'm talking to men. Women, follow your man. And you are doing what you were created to do. You have a much easier role. But you men, you're not Yahovah's people. He's certainly not your father. Until you leave the kingdom of your birth and then at Passover come into covenant with him. That's how you become a son, a spiritually born son. Well, we're going to see that hundreds of times throughout the scriptures, that Yahweh is talking to the Ezra men. the woman led her man. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, she led her man away from Yahovah. Okay, I just wrote an article, 144,000 defiled by women. This is what we're talking about. A woman leading their man away from what he's supposed to do. Solomon had 1,000 women in his life. They led him away from the Elohim of his father David. Abram was led away by Sarai, had him take Hagar to produce a seed, a flesh seed, instead of waiting for the spiritual seed to be born. This is a Jezebel. This is what a Jezebel does. She leads her men instead of being led by her man. Ooh, so many lies. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. This is what the world does. But they don't understand what it means to be covered. What do? It says his woman left her covering. The man left his covering, and now they are afraid. Now they're making man-made coverings. They had a covering. Yahovah was his covering. He was her covering. But now they're making man-made coverings. Well, isn't this exactly what Christianity does? Isn't this exactly what Judaism does? Have their ladies put scarves on their heads? Have their men wear kippahs? Military does it too?
Yeah, you gotta wear a hat whenever you go outside.
Oh, you wear a hat whenever you go outside? Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't get it. Okay? A covering. Yahovah leads the man leads his woman. They made themselves covering. Now look what it says. And they heard the sound of Yahovah Elohim. My version says, the New King James Version says, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Ha'adam and his woman hid themselves from the presence of Yahovah Elohim among the trees of the garden. Well, let's talk about this a little bit more. It says they heard a sound. Okay, sound, that's a good word. Of Yahovah Elohim moving in the garden. Okay, they put walking in the garden. Okay, why walking? Why walking? Does Yahovah, Spirit, Elohim, have legs? See, this is where we get this whole business. We want to make it, well, that was Jesus, don't you know, walking in the garden. Why does the translators, or why do the translators put walking? I want to talk about something for a second here. Look at, here's what the word means. It means moving, moving. Not walking, moving, coming, progress being made. Here's the word. It's called halak. It says a verb meaning to go, to come. They put to walk. This common word carries with it the basic idea of movement, the flowing of water, the descending of floods, the crawling of beasts, the slithering of snakes, the blowing of the wind, tossing of the sea. Not walking, moving. And then look what it says. Since it is usually a person who is moving, it is frequently translated walk. Okay, this is where we get the idea that Yahovah is walking in the garden, and this is why we want to make it Yeshua. Folks, get that stupid idea out of your minds. You learn lies. Jehovah is not a man. And he says, even I am Elohim, and besides me there is no Elohim, nor will there be after me. I am the Savior. Can we be more clear than that? Now, I put, since Ruach Elohim is not a man, this word is better translated as coming or moving. Elohim is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do? Or has he spoken, and he will not make it good? Like men do. Flesh men, not spirit men. Remember, if we swear an oath in Jehovah's name, we better do it, or we're taking his name in vain. He says, and also the strength of Israel will not lie or relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. He says, Hosea, I will not execute the fierceness of my anger. I will not return to destroy Ephraim, for I am Elohim, and not a man, the Holy One in the midst of thee, and I will not enter into the city. Job says, he's not a man, as I am, that I should answer him, and we should come together in judgment. So what's going on here? The sound of Yehovah Elohim moving in the garden. Probably that's what they heard, the rustling of bushes. You know, remember, he comes in a pillar of smoke. You can't see him. And Ha-Adam and his woman hid themselves from the presence of Yehovah Elohim among the trees of the garden. Then Yehovah Elohim called to who?
Adam.
Ha-Adam. He called to Ha-Adam and said to him, was he talking to the woman? No, he wasn't talking to the woman. He was talking to the head. Jehovah called to Ha-Adam, not his woman. He said, where art thou? Thou. Not you, thou. Masculine, singular, second person. Where art thou? Oh my goodness. You know what? This is the message that Jehovah has for all men. Where art thou? You left me. Where are ya? Come back to me. Leave those old Elohim and come back to me. That's the good news of the kingdom. He can be your Elohim once again. What's the first commandment that he gave us after we left the old Elohim and joined him in the wilderness and became his sons at Passover? First commandment. Thou shalt have no other Elohim existing. Hayah. Before my face. Before his face, look it. Here's the face. It says, and they heard the sound of Elohim moving in the garden in the cool of the day, and Ha-Adam and his woman hid themselves from Yehovah's face. His face. Panim. You shall have no other Elohim existing before my face. line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. You got to see how it all fits together. This is the day that we lost the life, the Kayim. Oh, bummer. The glory, the honor, the immortality left. Now we're no better than an animal. So sad. So he said, I heard your voice. This is the man talking. I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked. And I hid myself. You know what? When you're separated from Elohim, you're always going to be afraid. Remember, even the Ezra men who had just come out of Egypt came to the mountain. Not their women, not the Ger, not their children, not their servants. The Ezra men came to the mountain to hear the words of Elohim, and they were terrified. I was afraid. Why? Because they hadn't learned righteousness yet. The man who knows his Elohim, when Jehovah says, where art thou? Is going to say, Hineni, here I am. Just like Samuel did, just like Abraham did, just like David did. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Here I am. But the rest are going to hide themselves in the caves of the hills because they have no relationship with him. So I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. Sound. Same verse. I heard your sound, okay? They said voice. This word here is this word here. Call. I heard the sound. I heard your sound in the garden, and I was afraid. I put here, I think the man, Ha-Adam, is experiencing some of what is going on through Josiah's mind. Remember what Josiah said when he found the Torah for the first time. Look what he said. Go and inquire of Jehovah for me. He's talking to the high priest. And for those who are left in Israel and Judah, concerning the words of this book that is found, for great is the wrath of Jehovah that is poured out on us, men, because our fathers have not kept the word of Jehovah. Adam had not kept the word of Jehovah, and now he understands the wrath of Elohim is going to be poured out on him. He's going to lose his glory and honor and immortality and become a flesh man. I think of Adam, just Adam by itself, as being the flesh man. And we'll look at that as we go through the scriptures. It doesn't hold true completely, but oftentimes we're talking about the Adam being the flesh man. When a sinful Ha-Adam finally hears the sound of Yahovah, it is natural to be afraid. Even we Ezra men were afraid, terrified at the mountain when Jehovah spoke to us. When the 144,000 are raised up in the earth, pillars of fire and smoke over them. That's the presence of Elohim with them. they will see Jehovah as well, but they're not going to be afraid. What's the first message that they have for the 144,000 will bring to the world? Fear Elohim and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him. Serve him. Not the Elohim of this world. Come to us. 11. And he said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree which I commanded thee that thou shalt not eat? Who told thee thou were naked? Who's he talking to? The man or the woman?
The man.
Ha-Adam. Yehovah commanded Ha-Adam not to eat it, which I commanded thee. Yehovah commanded Ha-Adam, saying, of every tree of the garden thou may freely eat, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat, for the day that thou eat it, thou shalt surely die. Okay, in the flesh, we don't think he died. But in the spirit, he's dead. The Kayim is gone from him. And now we got to get it back. That's what the rest of Torah is all about. Getting it back. Verse 12. Oh yeah, look what he's doing. He's going to blame the woman right away. Then Ha-Adam said, the woman, the Isha, that thou gave me, she gave me of the tree and I ate. It's her fault. He was not to listen to his woman. Then to the man he said, because you have heeded the voice of your woman. Okay, it doesn't say wife, it says your woman. Remember, your woman could be a servant woman, she could be a daughter woman, she could be a sister woman, she could be a wife woman, but she's your woman. We're not to listen to them. We're supposed to follow Elohim and leave the woman. Because you heeded the voice of your woman and have eaten of the tree which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In toil, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, we're not supposed to listen to the woman. Ha-Adam was defiled by his woman. Okay, again, we're talking about this Greek word, maluno, defiled with women. Maluno means to defile, besmear, to dirty. The opposite of that is to clean, to wash. The woman dirtied him, just as my ex tried to dirty me. I started following my Heavenly Father. Keeping the Sabbath. In fact, I came out before I even learned about the Sabbath. I came out of this world. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a social security number. I was living separate from the world. But my woman wanted me to be a part of the world. I want my kids to grow up normal. I want my kids to grow up on the broad road. I got blackmailed by my Isha, saying that if I did not give up my Elohim, that I could not remain in my own family. You hear that? Talk about a Jezebel spirit. Talk about a woman defiling her man, malunoing her man. Oh my God, how can you even make a choice? Lose your family? Lose your Elohim? What's my choice? Well, I can't lose my Elohim.
Get rid of the woman.
And unfortunately, when you get rid of the woman, they take your children.
Yep.
In this world, wouldn't happen in the next world. You kick her out on her tuchus and you keep the kids. I have to ask myself, what if the man had never eaten the fruit? What if the man had never eaten the fruit? He's heard, she comes bringing it to him. It's got a bite out of it. She comes bringing it to him. And he would have said, what in the world have you done, woman? What have you done? I told you not to eat of that tree and you ate it. You think he would have died? I don't think so. I don't think man would have fallen. I think Jehovah would have got rid of her and given him another woman. But it's all water under the bridge because he did eat. 13. And Jehovah Elohim said to the Isha, what is this you have done? What is this you have done? The woman you gave me, she gave me of the tree and I ate. What is this you have done? Well, of course, now she's going to pass the buck as well. The woman said, the serpent! The serpent deceived me and I ate. Well, you weren't supposed to be talking to the serpent. The woman's job is to aid her man in doing what Jehovah commanded. In listening to another, one who led her away from her man, and just as bad, encouraged her to disobey Jehovah. Remember, she's supposed to follow her man, so she is being led away from her man and being encouraged to disobey her man. She was unfruitful in doing what she was created to do. Remember we talked about being fruitful and multiply? How is a woman fruitful? She's fruitful in doing what she was created to do, being an aid suitable to her man. The man is fruitful when he does the things that he was created to do. Follow Jehovah and be his servant. There's only 3 times that I have seen women come before Jehovah. And all 3 are when she's in trouble. When she has 1, left her man, 2, potentially left her man, or 3, trying to usurp her man. Those are the 3 times that a woman in Torah that I've seen have come before Jehovah. No other times, only when she's in trouble. Let's look at the first. I said has left or potentially left. That's the first 2, actually. And I want to go to Numbers chapter 5 to demonstrate this. I'm going to have to go there. It's 5:12 through 16. It says, speak to Israel's seed and say to them, if any man's woman goes astray and behaves unfaithfully towards him, and another man, another eesh, lies with her carnally, and it is hidden from the eyes of her man, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught. If the spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his woman who has defiled tameh herself. The word is tameh. Or if a spirit of jealousy comes upon him and he becomes jealous of his woman, although she has not defiled herself. Okay, that's why I say has left or potentially left. Maybe I should just say potentially left, because if she's left and he knows for sure there's witnesses, she's just simply killed. And so is the man that has lied with another man's wife. It says, then the man shall bring his woman to the priest. He shall bring the offering required for her, 1/10 of an ephah barley meal. He shall pour no oil on it, and put no frankincense on it, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, an offering for the remembering or for bringing iniquity. And look what it says. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Yehovah. Okay, this is one of the 3 times, 2 of the 3 times, I guess, that a woman can be brought before Yehovah. Maybe I should just have 2 times. Instead of 1 and 2, make that 1. Potentially left her covering. Because that's what the spirit of jealousy is all about. Potentially leaving her covering, isn't it? Okay, I'm just always redefining my thoughts. But let's go back now. There's one other place. I said usurping her man's authority. Here it is right here. Or trying to usurp her man's authority. Let's get rid of this one altogether. And now we're just going to have 1 and 2. Isn't that easy? Here's the other one. Trying to usurp her covering. Miriam did this. This is kind of long, but I want you to see this because we need to understand what's going on here. It says, and Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses. Who's Miriam's covering? Moses! Yes, he's a younger brother, but he's her covering. He is Aaron's covering. They both call Moses Adonai, my master. Remember, Yehovah told Aaron, Yehovah shall be as Elohim to you, and you shall be his prophet. Okay, so here it says, then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had Baaled taken and had married. I guess taken and married. An Ethiopian woman, for he had taken and he had married. Let me just see. It doesn't matter. Taken, married, it doesn't matter. Baaled, taken, the same thing. They're his woman. So they said, has Yehovah indeed spoken only to Moses? That's what her question is. Has Yehovah only spoken to Moses? Has he not spoken to us also? Are we lesser than Moses? That's what they're asking. And Yehovah heard it. He says, or it says, now the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. Suddenly Yehovah said to Moses and Aaron and Miriam, come out, you 3, to the tabernacle of meetings. So they came out. Then Yehovah came down in a pillar of cloud at the door of the tabernacle. She didn't even get into the door of the tabernacle. She's still not in the door of the tabernacle, but he is talking to Miriam, isn't he? Listen what he says. And they both went forward. Then he said, hear now my words. If there is a prophet among you, remember they were saying, have not we heard from Yehovah? If there's a prophet among you, I, Yahovah, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. Did you hear that? Moses is Yahovah's Aved, his servant. Aaron is Moses' servant. Miriam is Moses' servant. But Moses is Yahovah's servant. This is why the 144,000, those who are the prophet like Moses, are going to be different. They serve only Yahovah. They don't serve the governments of men. I speak with him face to face, panim to panim, even plainly, and not in dark sayings. And he sees, what is the word here? He beholds what is known of Yahovah. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? Woman, man. So the anger of Elohim was aroused against them, and he departed. And when the cloud departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous. How come Aaron's not becoming leprous? He did exactly the same thing. Because he's a man. Because it's so egregious for a woman to usurp her man's authority. And when the cloud departed, when Yahovah departed from above the tabernacle, suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. Then Aaron turned toward Miriam, and there she was, a leper. So Aaron said to Moses, "Oh, my Lord." Here he's at. He called Moses who? Adonai. "Hear, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Please do not lay this sin on us, in which we have done foolishly, and in which we have sinned." Well, I'm almost done. I got to read the end. "Please do not let her be as one dead, whose flesh is half consumed when she comes out of her mother's womb." Remember, when you are a leper, you get put out of the camp. You can't be part of Israel if you're a leper. That is the same as being kicked out of the camp. Please don't let her be as one dead. Well, if you're not part of Israel, you're dead. Walking dead. We talked about that last week. So Moses cried out to Yahovah, saying, "Please heal her. Oh, Elohim, I pray." Then Yahovah said to Moses, "If her father had spit in her face." What's he likening Moses, likening Miriam to Moses as a daughter whose father spits in her face? If her father had spit in her face, would she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out of the camp 7 days, and afterwards she may be received again. Miriam was shut out of the camp 7 days, and the people did not journey till Miriam was brought in again. Do you think when Miriam got kicked out of the camp that all the ladies in the camp realized, don't talk against your master, that's a bad idea? See what's going on here? We miss so much because we don't understand the foundations. A woman serves her man. A daughter serves her father. A maidservant serves her master. Well, let's go back. We're running out of time. We need to go to Genesis 13. Oh my, yeah, we got to get going. All right, 13, 14. So Yahovah said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all Bahama, and more than every living of the field. On your belly you shall go. You shall eat the dust all the days of your life. Ooh, now this gets interesting. Again, this is filled with false images that we have seen. It says, I will put enmity, still talking to Satan, I will put enmity between you and the woman. The woman. What is the woman that they have here? Is it the woman? 3:15, enmity between you and, here it is, the woman, the Isha. The definite article is there. You and the woman. And between your seed and her seed. Did you hear that? What seed are we talking about? Does a woman have seed? No, she doesn't. No seed for the woman. Between your seed and her seed. So what are we talking about? He shall bruise your head. You shall bruise his heel. Your seed, the seed of your, shall bruise his head. You shall bruise his heel. But what seed are we talking about? You know what? False images. Look what they put. They put a capital S on the seed. Why? Oh, you know why. Because we want to make it all about Jesus, don't you know? Folks, we learn lies. Worthless and unprofitable things. Yeshua is the golden calf of the modern age. We've used it to replace the truth of Yahweh's word. And we don't see what this seed is. Look at here. This is Isaiah 7:14. Let's see if I can get these in here. I'm going to do this just for you all. All right, that should bring them in. Yeah, barely. Okay. It says, therefore, Yahovah himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Isn't this what we've been taught? Virgin. Folks, it's not a virgin. It's an Alma. But the Alma that we're talking about is not. The Alma is a mature woman. But the Alma that we're talking about is Israel. Here's another one, Micah. Therefore he shall give them up until the time that she who is in labor has given birth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return to Israel's seed. The child, the seed that we're talking about is Israel's seed, the spiritually born seed, the firstborn of Yahovah. When Moses was instructed to say to Pharaoh these words, he said, Israel is my son, my firstborn. Let Israel go that he may serve me. Israel is Yahovah's firstborn, spiritually born men who have the Kayim back in their life. Glory and honor and immortality, whether we can see it or not. It's there. Here's another one. This is Isaiah 54. Talking about the man who bears more seed than the married woman. He says, sing, O barren. That's what I am right now. I'm barren. Don't even have a wife. don't have a house, don't have anything. Break forth and sing and cry aloud, you who have not labored, born sons. For more are the sons of the desolate, that's what we're talking about, the barren one, than the sons of the married woman. Says Yahovah, I have borne more sons already than any woman out there. And I'm going to bear a whole lot more before the end. Because we're talking about spiritually born seed. Well, here's an article that I put together. Israel is spiritual seed. It's all the links, you'll find it on here. I use it often, this particular link, for spiritual seed, Israel's seed. Whenever I write Israel's seed, the very first one has this link on it. You got to read it. It is interesting that it talks about seed. Oh, isn't that interesting that it would talk about seed and not sons? Seed. Seed. Who is Satan's seed and who is the woman's seed? Well, here's two more. Before she was in labor, she gave birth. Who gave birth? The woman. Who's the woman? Israel. She delivered a male child. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such a thing? Shall the earth be made to give birth in a day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion was in labor, that's the she gave birth to her sons. Her seed is what we're talking about. Revelation talks about this woman also. I guess I just needed verse 5. She bore, here, let me just ditch this here. Oh, I'm going to go to it. All right, well, we'll just go to it then. She bore a male child who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron. And her child, this is the male child, the Yeled, was caught up. Okay, caught up. That's really confusing because people want us to think about Jesus rising up. No. It says claim. The word is harpazo, harpazo. Claimed, seized, set apart is the word that we're talking about, because the translators want to make it Jesus. They put a C, a capital C, on the child, and now they say caught up. Because don't you know, Jesus went up to heaven. Oh, brother. No, set apart to Elohim and his throne. And the woman fled to the wilderness. The woman who bore the child fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim. That they, who's the they? The male child is the they, not Yeshua. He's not a they. Shall feed them there, or feed her there 1,260 days. Okay, we're talking about spiritual seed here, folks. They are going to take and bruise the head of who? The Satan's seed. Who is Satan's seed? We discovered this just a few months ago. Let me go back to it. Genesis 15. Here it is. Now, let me read this. It is interesting that it talks about the seed of the woman, because the woman does not have seed. Sounds to me like we are talking about the male child, Israel, who comes from the woman before she was in labor. So who is the spiritual seed? Here it is. This sounds like a tag team between the male child, Yahovah, to kick Satan's tuchus. His seed are the seed of Belial. Remember what we talked about, the seed of Belial. We discovered this in Deuteronomy somewhere. Belial's seed. Nabal was described as the seed of Belial. What is the seed of Belial? It's the seed of wickedness. Everybody who came from Adam after he fell, from the man after he fell and became Adam, was the seed of Belial. Men, you are the seed of Belial. You don't know it. You think that's something different, but it's not. If you're the seed of Noah, and we're all the seed of Noah, we're the seed of Belial until what? Until we leave the kingdom of our birth, join ourselves to Jehovah and his other called out people, and then at Passover become Jehovah's seed, Israel. Jehovah's spiritually born seed. That is the seed that has the Kayim back again in their life. Glory and honor and immortality. And as long as we continue in the way that leads to life and keep the Passover every year, we're going to remain with that Kayim in us. Folks, I'm trying to help you. Don't get mad at me. I know these are difficult things, but these things that I'm telling you, we're going to see them over and over and over and over again. I've got 10 minutes left. I can't even make it through this chapter. Oh, man. I know. I wanted to get this done, though. Well, we're going to have a part 2 on this, I guess. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess part 3. Now I'm going to have to say the first 4 videos. Seed. 16. To the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow. I will greatly multiply thy pain and thy pregnancy. It's not even going to be easy carrying these children, these sons. In toil thou shalt begat sons. Isn't it interesting that it says sons and not tough? You'd think it would be tough. Children. You shall beget sons, or maybe sons, Benim and Benot. But no, it doesn't say that. It says sons. Thy desire shall be for thy man, thy ish. Read my lips. And he shall rule over thee. Really just says, he shall rule. You know, this is one of those cases where we have to realize what it doesn't say. It doesn't say, I will rule over thee. It says, he will rule over thee. Not about you following Yehovah, ladies. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many marriages wrecked because the woman wanted to keep the Sabbath. The woman wanted to eat clean. The woman didn't want to do Christmas. And the man did, so she left her man. How foolish can we be? But we do it because we think, I'm talking for ladies right now, we think Jehovah's talking to us because it says the children of Israel instead of Israel's seed, and we don't know who the seed is. The Ezra men. So the woman leaves her man, makes herself uncovered, and her children fatherless. Oh, the judgment that is coming on these foolish women that do this. Darby says, to the woman he said, I will greatly increase thy trial and thy pregnancy. With pain thou shalt bear sons, and to thy husband, thy man, shall be thy desire, and he shall rule over thee. But he shall rule over thee, not I shall rule over thee. A woman in Torah never calls Yehovah her Adon, her master. Women only call men their Adon. Not one time in Torah will you ever hear a woman call Yehovah her Adon. Doesn't happen. But most men follow other men and call them master. Okay, it's the same thing. They're not calling most men, nobody in Moses' camp called Yahovah Adonai. They all called Moses Adonai. Moses called Yahovah Adonai. And this is the word that's usually translated as the Lord, capital L, small O-R-D, in the Torah. You know, it's just more solid evidence to understand the relationship of a man to Elohim and a woman to her man. Okay, if we don't get these first 3 chapters, you're wasting your time reading the Torah because you're going to be confused throughout. Then to Adam and to Adam. Doesn't say the Adam this time. I put shame on him. He has to work harder to get the results. Well, yeah, here's what his curse was. Then to Adam, he said, because you have heeded the voice of your woman. Don't heed the voice of your woman, men. Read my lips. Follow Yahovah. Your woman is going to lead you astray. Then to Adam, because you have heeded the voice of your woman, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, till thou returns to the ground, for out of it thou wast taken, for dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. Hear that? The man is not an eternal, immortal, invincible being any longer. He's now died. Spiritual death. A new creation has been formed that Yahovah never intended. As for my people, this is talking about because you heeded to the voice of your woman. You know, everybody wants to bring up Deborah. They love to bring up Deborah, but they don't realize that Israel was at the lowest low of their existence when Deborah, a woman, was beginning to lead them. Folks, don't go there. Look what Yahovah says in Isaiah. He says, as for my people, infants. Look at, these are sucklings, babes, infants are their oppressors, and women, Nashim, rule over them. It should never be. Oh, my people, those who lead you, men, cause you to err and destroy the way of your paths. Women are never intended to lead men. This is the age of the Jezebel. This is what the Jezebel woman does, rules over men. It happens everywhere. Government, business, families, everywhere. If my man did that to me, I'd have him sleeping on the sofa. I'd kick him out of the house. You Jezebel woman! What are you thinking? Does a servant throw her master out of the house. Ladies, don't learn the ways of the world, the cosmos passing away and all those in it. Talking about the 144,000, it says, these are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. They're not malunoed by their woman. They follow only Yahovah. They know the new song, the song of righteousness. Well, I'll let you read the article about being defiled with women. I don't want to spend any time doing that here. Let's continue in our thoughts here. The last one we had was, in the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you shall return. He's talking to the man. The woman was not taken from the dust, folks. This is the day that the qualitative life was taken from the man. Unless something changes, he is no longer a spiritual being and no longer in Elohim's image. Yeah. No, we're not going to be in his image any longer, or we're not in his image now. We are giving a false image into the world. And until we, again, leave the kingdom of our birth, come into covenant with him, and learn to keep his statutes, judgments, and ordinances, then we can begin to put the pure light of the word, the sun of righteousness, shining in the world. That's what the story's all about. Bring the Kayim back to the man. And remember, when the man has it, his women gets it as well. And Adam called his woman. Well, I'll tell you, it's so easy to read, wives. You've got to learn to read differently in the Torah if you ever want to develop the skills that will bring further understanding. And Adam called his woman's name Eve, Hava. Hava, that's her name right here. This is where it is. Hava. Does that look familiar? That's the word that we've been using all this long time for, or related word to, life. Kayim, or Kai. This is the woman's life, living thing. He says he named all the animals. Now he's going to name his woman. I think it's only appropriate that he should name his woman. She didn't name herself, he named her. Well, here it is, a proper name designating Eve, Hava, the name of the first woman created by, look at what they put, the Lord God, Yahovah Elohim. Okay, this is what see, they don't know it. These commentators, they don't know squat. We just got to get past them. You know, glean what you can. Glean what you can. Now, Carrie says I'm running out of time. That's 1:03. Okay. Well, shucks. I really wanted to finish this chapter. I really wanted to talk about this thing down at the bottom where we're talking about advanced principles of the word. You know what? You're going to have to come back next week. I want to give you the advanced principles of the word. I don't want you to see them right now, though. So we're going to have to pick up right here. Named as woman. Living, making alive. Thank you again for joining me. These are not easy things, are they? These are difficult things to hear. But you know what? When you get the foundation right, oh, you guys, you're going to see how it all fits together so perfectly. It's like a glove. Yahovah is painting right now for us a beautiful picture, weaving for us a beautiful tapestry. I knew Sheila would get it. Thank you, sweetie. Yeah, beautiful tapestry. Oh my gosh, but you know, you can't see it until you get all the pieces in the right place. You got a thread over here where it's supposed to be over here. It doesn't work. That's why so much confusion in Yahweh's word. Well, that's what it means to me. That's how I see it. Well, you don't see it the same way I see it, Michael. You know what? There's only one way to see it. I love that verse. Those who know you will be glad when they see me, because I have hoped in your word. You know what? When you meet somebody who has arranged his mind to follow only Torah, there's an immediate connection, especially between men. Immediate connection, because we know the truth. We've sought it out. We've made it a part of our life. And that's what it's all about. Well, I've got to say goodbye. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you will come back. Come and hear us live. If you can't, my YouTube video, I have a channel, We Are Israel Michael Didier YouTube channel. Go there. Subscribe to my channel and don't miss one of these things. You know what? The way of life builds on the way of life. Yehovah is giving us a foundation right now for truth. You got to continue in the foundation, and we're going to see it grow week by week by week. But you won't see it. You know, you're going to start in Deuteronomy, you're going to miss the foundation. How are you going to get the truth if you don't go from the beginning? Right now, we're building a foundation. Yehovah leads his men, not the Gentiles. He leads the Ezra. And the women follow their man. No man, you're not doing what you were created to do. And you will not have life eternal, ladies. Got to get a man in your life. All right. Well, love you tons. We'll talk to you next week. Bye now.